Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see you tonight. We have a lot to talk about. Glad to see everybody here. I was trying to make sure that I did not have anything go wrong with this live stream like it's been doing in the past. Does everybody hear me okay? Can I get somebody to say hello, or can everybody hear me okay? I'm going to wait till somebody tells me, please, that everything's okay. Okay, I'm assuming that it is. Okay, great. Well, I got a few things to talk about before we're going to get into the Barry Morphin situation. I just want all of your opinion on something. Okay? I'm going back to the Marilane Carter situation, and it's something I found out that's kind of very suspicious to me. Maybe y'all have read something different than I have. But I'm gonna read something here for you and show you some things that I found out, and you just tell me how you feel about it. Now, this was the road she was discovered down. She had to why did she come down this road to start with? But if she got lost, why all of a sudden she's thinking about going up there and parking in a Connex box or a shipping container? Why, I'll never know. But let's look at this shipping container one time. This is the shipping container she was in. If your car is parked backed in with it running, I'll say this: I don't think you can die of asphyxiation unless you got a hose stuck through your window, because all the air would go out. It'd act like a big chimney. It would not settle in there enough. I don't think there's enough. You might get a real bad headache, but I don't think it would kill you. Because I've ran a car in the garage with the garage door open before, or even the garage a little ways open, and it builds up in there, but it's not enough to kill you. It'll give you a bad headache, I promise you that. Okay, think about this. I looked at the Connex box, and they're pretty all the same. This is an average Connex box, and I think it's about a 40-footer she was in. It might have been a 20-foot, but regardless, they're all the same width. They're 2.39 meters. That would be equal in feet 7.70 feet. Okay, basically 7 foot 8 inches. Her car was 70. The width is 70 inches, 78 inches. Yes, 78 inches wide. So first off, I don't even see it. It's going to be very, very close. At the very, if not within inches. Okay. That'd be 6.5 feet. If it's 78, 70 is going to be a little bit on 6. There's 6 inches basically on either side of her car, what it amounts to. The uncle says, he saw one of the doors was partially open. He walked in and discovered the vehicle inside. One of the doors, get that now, remember that. One of the doors was partially open. Chief Todd Grooms, the vehicle's ignition was on position and the car was found, and there was evidence that it's been running while they closed inside the container. Now I'm going to tell you something. In this, I read another article on this, and they said there was no way that she could have got out of that container, got out of the car, and closed the doors. There's no way. No way for her to get out of the car, period. There's not enough room for anybody to open the doors and get out. So the car is backed into there. You hear me right now? The car is backed into the garage. The uncle discovered one of the doors partially open. How'd the doors get closed? She get out of the back and crawl over the top of the car? I want to know that. It's just things that I'm asking. How, if this is a clear-cut suicide, and they have said, now I think I copied that with down in here. They said there was no way for them to open the door. Let's see. See. No, that's Barry Morphew stuff. Let me go back up here and see if there's if I copied that right. All right. While the FBI Forensics Recovery Team, Sheriff's Department, Arkansas State Police, collective thoughts, likely carbon monoxide poison, she didn't have any blunt force trauma or any type of wounds that they discovered prior to autopsy. It's likely she pulled into the container and left the motor running. How she got back into that location and found that container is just bizarre for sure, but indicates that she was left behind the wheel. The car was running. The doors were actually locked. The way, here it is, the way that car was in there, for sure, couldn't open and shut the doors. No one else could have done that. Okay, there you go. She can't get out of her car. That's what they said. Can't get out of her car. So how did the front doors get shut? How did the doors to the shipping container get shut? And if they left one slightly open, if maybe one was slightly, you cannot back into that container unless the doors are open. It's going to be amazing. I personally have driven all kinds of vehicles, and I personally have backed all kinds of vehicles and trucks and boats, and I'm not an expert, but I'm very good at it. I can back almost into anything. That's how we used to park our patrol units. Even our undercover cars, we'd back them into a parking space. And if there's a little parking space, it takes some finessing to get in there. She backed it all the way in. Thank you. Thank you, Jenna Lee. I appreciate that. She backed her car with the doors open. She had to have them open. She couldn't have them partially shut. They wouldn't go in there. She backed the car in over a 6-inch lip to get it up in there. I'm telling you, I would think this. And she had to back it in straight. Once she got it into there, had to back it in straight, because if not, you were not going to be able to get in there. It would hit something. They got mirrors on the side of those cars too. So I'm telling you, it was a tight fit. So okay, let's think about this. The car is in there. It's a very, very tight fit. They said, don't matter if she's skinny or not. She can't get the doors open to get out. They've said that. She couldn't open the doors and get out of the door. There's no way. They said it couldn't be done. So the only way she could have got out of that vehicle and shut the front doors is to come out the hatch and climb over the car, shut the doors and climb back over the car. I just don't see that happening. I don't see it happening. And that would not be easy at the very best, even if she had plenty of time. So let's just assume she just backed in there and left it running. No way she would asphyxiate. Not in my opinion. It would be almost impossible for both of those doors to be left if they were open and that car running. But that's not what they said. They said the uncle found the car, found everything shut. One door was partially open. How did they get the door shut? Now, if she would have pulled in there straight ahead, and come out the back of the hatchback, shut the doors, and then climbed in the hatchback and shut the hatchback, then I'd say, okay, I could see that happening. It'd be tough, but I could see it happening. You'd have to turn her headlights on, and it'd have to show some light back in there, maybe from the interior of the car, to see it. But my problem is she didn't pull straight in. She backed in. Now, you say, well, okay, if she backed in, she's on the one in the vehicle, that's it. No. She could have had another person in the vehicle. She could have been smothered. She could have been, anything could have been done. He could have killed her, left her, or knocked her out, or put some chloroform on her and got her knocked out, escaped through the back end, shut the back end, crawled over the car, and left and shut the doors. I want to know how the doors got shut. That's all I think. If anybody in law enforcement down there can get on this channel and tell me how the doors got shut to the shipping container. She couldn't have done it. The people said that there was no way that she could have got out of the car, couldn't open the door. The doors were 6 inches on each side. You can see right here how close that wheel is to the side of that thing. The car sticks out about 6 to 8 inches on the other side of that wheel. There's no way that anybody can get in there. Right there. See that? Do you see any? I say to you, there's no way. And even the sheriff, here it is again. The car's in there just like that. Okay? There's not a way for her to do it. There's not a way. The sheriff said there's not a way for her to do it. Right here. She went down a gravel road, backed into a shipping container, down a gravel road off 55. You know, one thing I question is, why did he go down there looking for her? Had he been down all the other gravel roads? I mean, and why was he the only one that stayed behind and did it? I don't understand that. Maybe they all had jobs. I don't know. Let me go back. But see, you know, when you say what they could see, there's no blunt force trauma. I don't think without an autopsy you can tell that. Not with somebody been in a car for 12 days. You know, maybe she left a note. I don't know. I just simply saying it's a lot of evidence here. A lot of evidence. I keep skipping around these. Okay. Well, it's a lot of evidence here that's not being told. And, you know, I don't know. I think there's some questions I would like to know how it's possible to do that. How it's possible that the doors to the shipping container were closed. One was partially open. How in the world can they do that? And still, with her pulling straight in and them saying there's no way she could even open the doors to get out. Because you all remember that your door is about 4 inches thick. Go out to your car. Have your husband or significant other or whoever stand on the outside of that car 6 inches away from your door. Okay? And then you open that door against them and try to get out. I bet you kids couldn't even get out. I know I tried. I can't get out. Of course, I'm fat, but, you know, I can't get out. I'm just simply saying the scenario they're putting in play has got a lot of questions that need to be answered. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe in the next few weeks we'll find out. Now, how many of y'all went over to, I think her name is Lauren. I've got her name here on this. She is with Fox 21 News out of, I think they're out of Denver or Colorado Springs. Anyway, she was contacted by Barry Morphew, and we'll get into that case now. She was contacted by Barry Morphew, and he said he'd like to finally talk to somebody after 3 months. That he's getting kind of bombarded in the media and on YouTube about how that let me address one thing. No, Denise, no, the container apparently had been in the woods there and on the property for maybe up to a year. The grass was growing up behind it and everything. And that, I think the property owners even said that it's been there forever almost. No, you know, for a long time anyway. Yeah, Mike, Mike, that's exactly what I said. But getting into it's a lot of Sharf, yes, Lauren Sharf. Anyway, she was contacted by Barry. Apparently, they talked twice on the phone for about 30 minutes. Here, listen to this now. The key. He said it cannot be recorded. He said it cannot be played on the news as his recorded voice. It can't be on camera. He set the rules. Now, I'm going to play this interview, what she did on the news. I don't know if y'all saw it, but the way my software is, and let me explain something to you. I can't just put the whole thing on there at once. I had to take it, put it in my Final Cut Pro, edit it down to 100 megabytes, and then split it in 4 parts. So some of the stuff, when I place these clips together, they're going to go over stuff that I've already covered. But just please bear with me on that. It's not me. It's not that I'm stupid. It's the software that I'm dealing with. So let me go over to that and play this for you, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. I also copied some of his interview he did unknowingly with Tyson Draper, where, he said once already that he said in his Tyson Draper interview, he said, we did this, we did that. Oh, no, I was in Denver. That was my friend. But one thing you think about, and what my other videos, I covered this, he lies. He lied about searching 200 square miles. If he did that, that would be so many acres. It'd take them almost a year and a half to search that much. He lied about his buddy having 400 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nobody has 400 tours. I want to talk to the guy that has 400 tours, because if you do a 3-month tour, that's 10 years of solid service. So if you do a year, that's 400 years. So I think that was exaggeration, maybe. So we need to look at this thing and then think about he said one thing on here, and then I'm gonna play it and you hear it again. He said he's never asked to give a polygraph. That's what he said. I've never been asked to do a polygraph. And then he also says he gave 3 30-hour interviews with the FBI, CBI, and somebody else. 3 30 hours, so 90 hours of interviews. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you're doing 90 hours of interviews, he said he answered every question. If you do 30 hours of interviewing with this FBI and CBI, you're a suspect. If they interview you for 30 hours, you're a suspect. So I would like to know if that's true, that he had 90 hours of interview time. But let's go over to this. Like I said, I'm going to have to play this in stages because and we may just look at this in stages. First one here. Bear with me.
Scott and Taylor Barry Morphew told me he's devastated that he's still searching for his wife of 26 years and trying to piece together what may have happened to her. Barry declined an in-person interview and didn't want to want a recording of the call to be aired. But in our nearly 30-minute conversation, he mentioned the possibility of an animal attack, a run-in with an unknown person, or even suggested someone who knows her well.
Honey, I love you. I want you back so bad.
That's Barry Morphew, a week after Suzanne, his wife and the mother of his 2 daughters, disappeared, pleading for help. 95 days later, Barry says he's still searching. Quote, "My wife and I have been in love since 1988, and she's the love of my life, and I continue to search for her every day, and I will until I find her. I promise, and I promise my girls that." During our phone call, he mentioned several times of his family's deep faith, saying, "We don't know why God does what he does, but we have to trust him," telling me the reasons he's been silent. In the days and months following Suzanne's disappearance is finger pointing.
I don't know why the husband doesn't speak out, right? Any info is good info.
Well, he said he's been searching for her. He wasn't with the police when they handed out flyers. He's never done a press conference. And that's one thing what I say about that is, if it had been me, if I'd have had a wife, daughter, good friend, neighbor, I'd be out there every day trying to help find her, but he hadn't even opened his mouth about her. I'd like to know how. How are you doing that, Barry? How are you trying to go out there and search for her? You know, how you doing that? I don't know. Yeah, the media. Yeah, he mentioned who the media has been harassing him. The media hadn't even talked to him. He hadn't talked to her. The media. He didn't talk to the media before this night, but he contacted them about this night. Okay, let's go to the next one. We'll stop after we do that one also.
The days and months following Suzanne's disappearance is finger pointing.
I don't know why the husband doesn't speak out, right? Any info is good info if you're trying to find out what happened to the mother of your children.
And the unfair perception that he's done something wrong. Juliet Fitzgibbons, an avid biker, found herself riding in the same area where Suzanne's bike was allegedly recovered.
And I actually missed seeing the ribbon. I wish there was a bigger kind of memorial for her here.
Others,
someone had knocked on the window, and it was Barry Morphew.
questioning his search methods.
He went to write down like a description of maybe what she was wearing.
Tiffany Butala, a manager at Poncha Market, says Barry came to the store on May 12th with a brief note.
I really thought it was weird because he didn't explain what her color her eyes were, or her hair, or anything about her, you know, like how tall she was or anything.
At that time, Barry had not spoken publicly at all, despite our efforts in person and by phone to learn his side, and eventually he agreed, saying, "It's been 3 months, I'm still devastated. I'm still in a lot of pain. My heart is breaking for the loss of my wife." After a brief first call, Barry and I spoke again, and he explained, telling me, "That's the reason why I had you call me back. I am afraid of what is out there. People don't know the truth, so they're gonna think what they're gonna think." And for the first time, responding to allegations made by Suzanne's side of the family that he refused polygraphs, saying, "I've never been asked to do a polygraph. There is nothing that I'm hiding. I have given 30 hours of testimony to the FBI and the CBI. I've answered every question, every single question." Private investigators.
Now, 30 hours. Now, if you're given 30, that's 90 hours of interview time. If you're given 90 hours of interview to the FBI and CBI, you're a suspect, Barry. I hate to tell you that. You know, that's a lot of time. That's 90 hours. You realize that if you only sat down at 4 hours at a time, that's how long is that? So that, I think, you know, as much as he exaggerates, you know, they might have been 9 hours. I don't know. I want somebody, if somebody knows something, please speak up and tell me if they know for sure. I don't know that they know for sure that. Yeah, his loss, his pain. You know, he never talks about his girls now. He never said a word about his girls other than he promised his girls he was going to look for them. Promise he's not going to give up hope. You know, I don't understand why he's not out there doing something every day, and why not let it be taped? You know, why not? Because he doesn't want to be tied down to his words. In case later on that he wants to say, "No, I didn't say that." You know, I hope she taped it for her piece and put the tape on the shelf and say, "Well, I can't play that, but I have it taped so that he won't dispute it later on." I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. 10 hours, even 10-hour days a year. I'm sorry, but you're a suspect. You interview that long. Let's go to the other one.
Investigator Dan Corsentino, who's worked in law enforcement for 25 years and was a former Pueblo County sheriff and Fountain police chief, says even if a person is asked to submit to a polygraph, it could be reasonable for that person to refuse.
An investigator may offer a polygraph only to have the subject or the person of interest refuse it based on legal advice, knowing the polygraph is not admissible in a courtroom. So therefore, what's the use of taking it?
Also, during our call, Barry explained what he called an inconsistency with one timeline and what he told investigators, quote, "It was only because I didn't know the time that I did something, a mechanical thing to my Bobcat. I was confused and I just found out my wife was missing." And he's concerned in Chaffee County Sheriff's Office handling of this investigation, particularly on the day his wife's bike was found. Telling me my buddy was there right after that, and he said that they completely destroyed the evidence and he tried to stop them but they wouldn't listen to him, and said this is not CSI. There's no evidence for the investigators to see because the sheriff's department completely obliterated it. And Barry said their mistakes explain why people are questioning him.
Most investigators.
Their mistakes, it's always somebody else's fault. And I said this from the beginning. He's muddying the water near the investigative scene. That'd be great if there's really a scene. Like I said, I don't believe she was ever on her bike. There's no proof that she was. That was a convenient way to stage something that happened. It could have been a convenient way. It could have been that they threw the bike down the hill, bent it up, whatever, whoever, to make it look like something happened up there. But my problem is, and we talked about it last time, she was texting her good friend about a wedding, something she was looking forward to. It was a real happy time, texting back and forth. Then boom, their text quit cold turkey. Couldn't get on the phone, call her, couldn't get on her text, couldn't get nothing. I believe whatever happened to her happened that night, because you could very well just say that she had been killed during an argument, fell, hit her head, whatever. Even if it was accidental, killed at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, well, that would leave all the way to 8 o'clock for someone to go do whatever they want to during the day and establish alibi. So in my opinion is they probably happened later on in the night. That's just my opinion now. I'm not speaking of evidential facts. That's just my opinion. All right, now we're going to the last part of this, and you watch. He goes back to his Christian ties, and I'm not sure if he really truly means this. I'm not questioning his Christian ties, but he says something that's really strange, and me and my wife even talked about this. He says, if one person gets saved because of this tragedy, then Suzanne would think it's worth it. What does that even mean?
In Chaffee County Sheriff's Office handling of this investigation, particularly on the day his wife's bike was found. Telling me my buddy was there right after that, and he said that they completely destroyed the evidence and he tried to stop them but they wouldn't listen to him, and said this is not CSI. There's no evidence for the investigators to see because the sheriff's department completely obliterated it. And Barry said their mistakes explain why people are questioning him.
Most investigators start with the people closest to the alleged victim in the case.
But Barry is adamant, saying the sheriff's department screwed this whole thing up from beginning and now they are trying to cover it up and blame it on me. And in the meantime, he says he's doing what he can to keep going, telling me this is the most devastating thing that has ever happened to me. But I have got to keep my faith and trust in God, and Suzanne trusted the Lord. And if one person got saved from this, she would think it was worth it. And we are just a godly, loving, caring family, and this thing is just a tragedy. Barry said he promised his 2 daughters he would continue to look for their mother every single day. And I also made another call to Suzanne's father, her only living parent. You can hear that entire conversation right now on fox21news.com. I also reached out to the Chaffee County Sheriff for his response to my conversation with Barry, but he did not get back to me despite my efforts. It's been more than a month since a press release with a statement or an update from the sheriff has been sent.
See, I went and listened to the conversation she had with the father, and it was nothing to do with the case. It's basically he said we'd really love to have Suzanne home, but he's in his late 80s. He said longer it waits, longer it goes on, the less chance that she's going to be found alive. He's a realist on that, but he talks about her and how her mother took after her the beauty of her mother and how they loved to dance and just a lot of stuff like that. I never got anything. I pretty much quit listening to about 3/4 of the way through. I didn't think we needed to hash that back from the family on this side right now. But, and I just nothing came out of this interview that made me feel like that he's not involved. Absolutely nothing. In fact, I mean, he tries to muddy the water with the sheriff's department screwed it up. It's the sheriff's department's fault. It's the sheriff's department this. They're trying to blame me. No, Barry, you're the one that says you're looking for her every day, and I haven't seen any post anywhere that said you handed out flyers past June the 8th or something, past that interview. You haven't talked to any media about it. The thing is, I don't understand. All these other missing person cases, you see the whole family together in front of the news media, begging for their relative to come back, begging for whoever's got her to bring her home, begging for everybody to give any information, any tips or anything. Every single week, or at least every single day. He's got a good relationship with Lauren. Why don't he call her every couple of days and say, I want to talk to you in person. I want to appeal to the public to please help us find her. Nope. And, it's kind of telling when he said he believes that it could be a mountain lion. Well, I don't, because they sure don't take their prey completely out of sight. They'll take it 100 yards, 200 yards, and then they'll lay down with it. No evidence of a mountain lion. He said she could have been abducted. Maybe. I don't think so, because I don't ever think she's on her bike. Nobody saw her on her bike. And 3, the closest telltale. It could have been somebody that knew her very well. Yeah, I think so too. I think that could be very true. So if he thinks that this is going to go away, that, he spoke through a person without it being taped, without being on the air, and, he blames the police for all this kind of stuff, is going to take his name out of the limelight, he is insane. It's not. But until he gets out there in front of the public's eye as much as he possibly can and try to solve this issue, it's going to be on him. Everybody's going to still look to him. And I tell you what, if I was a sheriff's department, if the sheriff's department has asked him to take a polygraph and he's refused, they need to come out and say it. That would just go another way to saying that Barry's lying. But I kind of think they want to back off from Barry, let him make a mistake, and who knows, S.A. Potts, glad to see you back. You never emailed me, though. I'm sad. Let me ask you something, Miss Potts or S.A. I don't know if you're Miss or Mr. Do you know if the girls are living with Barry? And if they are not, do you know if the girls have ever experienced domestic violence in the house before this happened? If I wanted to ask you this in private to email, but I'm just going to ask you: do you know do you know? I don't know about that. I mean, I would hope not. Okay, one of them is staying with their boyfriend. Is the other one staying with a family member? Can you tell me that? And can you tell me if there was ever any domestic abuse in that house? I'm not saying reported to the police. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I want to know. I want to know if somebody knows that. She's on the phone with her friend when all this stuff just ends suddenly. It could have been something that happened to her right then. Could have been anything, but that is a big, big red flag to me. You know, you're on the phone with somebody, all of a sudden click. And like I said before, you can have no cell service and still text. And I know it said the girl that was on the phone with her, good personal friend of hers, tried to call her back and couldn't get an answer. Not that the phone said, you know, went right to voicemail, anything, just couldn't get an answer. And then also tried to text and couldn't get an answer. Never did from then on get a hold of her. So that's a big thing. I would like to know if both the girls are living with him. I understand he is not staying at the house. He's staying with a friend. That was just some information that I got. Yeah, 100% does sound excessive. Not that you're aware of, but you feel Barry did a good job at separating Suzanne from her family and friends. Yeah, I do too. You know, moving from Indiana to Colorado, and plus moving down there when it's kind of an isolated place. That's why I wonder if anytime, you know, we're going back to, I don't know that she was going to leave him. I kind of don't think so. You know, yeah, you know, I think the night before she went missing is when this happened. Whatever happened then, because just, I mean, just think about this. If you were this is just, and I want to say, I'm not saying this happened like that. Don't get me wrong, because I don't want to be the one that comes out and say, well, this absolutely happened. And then we find out that it's totally the opposite. And then you think, I don't know anything. This is one possibility. It's a possibility that she was kidnapped. Okay, it's a possibility. It's not a possibility, in my opinion, that an animal got her. It's just, you know, they've searched all around there, the dragon marks and clothing torn, and there's just not any evidence. There's no evidence that she stumbled down the hill, hit her head on a rock when she's wearing a bicycle helmet, and then fell in the creek, and because they searched the creek and everything, there's all kinds of rocks in there. It's a possibility she was abducted, okay? Let's throw that out there. It's a possibility. I think it's a low possibility, my opinion. It's also a possibility that sometime during the night before all this missing people happened, there was a domestic argument in the house. There's a possibility that something happened, either an accident or on purpose, and she was killed, and he had all night to do something with the body. And then he goes to Denver or wherever the heck he goes, reports her, and then she gets reported missing. And, you know, the bike could have been thrown down the hill. There's so much possibilities. There's so much stuff we do not know. Yeah, OJ did blame the LAPD. Yeah, it is a possibility of all things could have happened, but I don't know that it was or not. I'm going to highlight you there. I'm pretty sure there's emotional abuse and maybe even some physical at the very minimum. Does Suzanne call the cops to report it? I don't think so. No, I do not think so either, because I think one is she's maybe a Christian. She wants to work it out. She's isolated away from her family down here, down in Colorado. She's, you know, she's not in a place where she can call on her friends or a long ways away. You know, I just don't think she's in a spot where she would, and plus she doesn't want to leave her girls. Think about that. She wants to leave, but she doesn't want to leave her girls. And I think something might have happened that I don't know if she even had a life insurance policy, because she did have cancer twice. It would be so astronomical. Say this, you can text on a very weak signal. Exactly. If you lose a signal, no texting, of course, but it requires a little bandwidth. I agree 100%. I have text when I thought my phone couldn't pick up anything. You know, she was isolated. She was taken from where her family grew up. This Indiana, I think it was, or Indiana. It was Indiana, Illinois. I think it was Indiana, and she was removed out of that. They moved to a very isolated portion of Colorado, and so it's easy to get kind of depressed and everything. But she had two beautiful girls that the girl that had cancer with her said that they were her life. Her family was her life. So it's, you would think she may have wanted to work it out. However, she may have, maybe she couldn't find her charger. Maybe. I guess it's possible. It kind of ended abruptly, though. I don't. If your battery starts to go dead, you get this kind of warning on your phone. She could have said, "Hold on, just a minute." We don't know one thing. We don't, and I don't know if her phone was ever found. We don't know if in the phone records, or anything was found on her, but well, I don't know if there was a mistress. I've heard that in rumors that there might have been a mistress. I don't know that, and I don't want to bring that girl's name. I don't, until we get some actual information that we know 100% is true, verifiable, it's bad to kind of throw some name out there unless you absolutely know for sure. I know that angle has been checked out. But you imagine this, something happens later in the night like that, and then you think about it, you got 8 hours to do anything you want to do. Now, the night that the woman heard the machinery, was that, and I've always been confused on that, was that the night of the disappearance, or was that the night after the disappearance? I kind of think it was the night supposedly of the disappearance. And if that was the case, that just, well, I would love to hear that I'd love to talk to that girl too. Maybe I can contact her and see if she'd be willing to talk to us online. Yeah. See, one that we went back in the other stream the other night. We talked about the fact that the guy in Indiana, I'm going to say it's Indiana. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. The guy in Indiana that worked on a site with Barry, and Barry just went ballistic over something small. Apparently, they had a scaffolding in the wrong spot. He was doing some work, some landscaping. He went completely ballistic, threw one of the workers' tools, electrician's tools, out in the road. He basically did a chest bump with this guy that was complaining they had a fight out in the middle of the yard. Now here's this professional landscaper fighting with a brick mason out in the front yard, and both of them end up getting arrested in the process. 6 months later, one of them, the brick mason, said he didn't take a deal. Said Barry did what they call a diversion deal. What that is and like I explained the other day, a diversion deal is they agree to basically be a good boy for 6 months to a year, and if they never get arrested or charged with anything during that time, they would dismiss the charges. So it's not like don't spin on their record. But sometimes they'll have to take anger management classes. If it's a DUI, they have to go to alcohol classes. So he took the easy way out and just basically didn't get in trouble again, and he got his charges dismissed. This guy went all the way to court, and then they dismissed the charges anyway. So, but it just shows he's got a very volatile temper. So something could have set him off in the house that night. Something could have happened, and boom, you got a bad situation. And that's it. Everything that I've heard tells me she never went on that bike ride. Barry's not a good person. Zero evidence suggests that, let's see. Zero evidence suggests that he is, but testimonies jerking him several states away. Yeah, I agree. He's definitely got some anger issues, it sounds like. And if he thinks this one little talk not being recorded under his way or the highway type circumstances, then I don't see it happening. I don't see this going away for him. I think if nothing else, it's not going to make it easier for him. It's going to make it harder. He says he's looking every day for her. I don't see him out there looking every day for her. He's not on the internet. He's not talking to anybody. He refused to let his voice be heard. Now he can say, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. And she must took that tape and cut it and made me say that. I didn't say that. It's just, it's his way or the highway. If there was, and with him and his violent temper, I would say that there were probably at least some type of verbal abuse that led to maybe something else. Maybe she just had enough. Maybe she said, I don't like living down here. I didn't want to move down here. I miss my family. And apparently, her father's her own living relative and he's back there. So, she may have just put it down an ultimatum. Look, I'm moving back home. They had a house there. At that time, they had not sold their property. So maybe she just told him, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going. I want to go, and that's it. And he just blew up, and that's what happened. But we don't know that. I guess we'll never know that unless something comes out. Description exactly what Suzanne was doing, wearing, and what she was dressed to the pawn store owners. Then I know exactly. You're right. I mean, if my wife is missing on a bike and all that, I'm going to have it all. I'm going to tell them everything. We believe she was left on a bike, and this is the type of bike it is. She was there wearing this helmet. This is her full name. If you see her, please call me. This is my phone number, or call the police. This is this, or any information at all. Call me. Nothing like that. I don't see him. I don't see him out there claiming he's working to find her every day. I don't know. People claimed he was calling her Nacho. I don't know what that is, other than you buy Nacho. He claimed that she was on a bike wearing a blue helmet. The note, how did you know she was wearing that she was wearing that? Well, other than the fact maybe the helmet was missing. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Maybe he checked the bike and sure enough, the helmet was missing. She only had one helmet. Maybe she only wore that helmet. That could be his assumption. Yeah, I mean, there's no one saw her on her bike. I think that's pretty much been established. Nobody saw her on her bicycle, and other than the fact her bike was found, doesn't tell me nothing. It doesn't tell me anything. I mean, well, yeah, but we're assuming that. Yeah, we're assuming that happened. I don't, anything could have happened. They could have been arguing about this on the phone a little bit. Okay, I'm going to run that down after we get off here. We don't know. They could have had a disagreement over that. She could have confronted him earlier in the night. if I don't know, that's what I'd like to know, if her phone was found, because maybe she was texting more than just about this wedding to her friend. I don't know. And let me hear my paper rattling here. Yeah, I think you're talking about the encounter, and you're talking, and I'm going back to Ann Lane here. You're talking about the encounter where somebody said they encountered a woman, I think in Oregon, said it looked just like Suzanne and everything. But, I wish that was true. I wish she was alive, but I don't think so. I'll be honest with you. I don't think she's alive. And it could have been her. Sure, it could have been. Maybe she's got amnesia. Well, she was wearing a helmet. If you fall down a hill and hit your head. Plus, you got to think about this. 3 months, she didn't have any money with her. This girl was in a car, I think they said. She didn't have any money. No identification. If she got a phone? I mean, how do you survive to get to Oregon with no money? Do you hitchhike? I don't know. Plus, if she knows what's going on and she escaped to Oregon, I think her girls would know about it. They say her girls were her life. I just don't know. Yeah, Russell, I tell you, here's the thing too. They may have had a disagreement earlier in the night, back and forth, kind of like, you're going to leave her or I'm going to leave, or whatever. If she knew about the other one, or maybe she was saying how unhappy she was up there and how she wanted to go back home, and it could have set him off. And how many husbands killed because they found a girlfriend? I agree. I mean, Chris Watts was the latest one that did that horrible thing, but something could have happened during that night. And I honestly believe that if anything happened to her between her and her husband, it happened that night. That would give all kinds of time to get rid of the body. And you got to think about this too. You got to think about this too. Say something happened and it was even an accident and she hit her head or she died or maybe it was intentionally, maybe he slapped her. Well, I don't know. This is all just conjecture. We're just throwing out things that could have happened. We don't know what happened. And whoever would do that would have all night to do something with that body, all night. And if that tractor noise was heard the night of the disappearance, then that just opens up a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you got to think about the FBI, CBI went over there and they spent all day. They looked with radar, penetrating radar, ground penetrating radar. They dug up half the concrete. They believed maybe something was over there and in the ground. And whether they gathered evidence, I do not know. Maybe that's one of the things that they're wanting, the evidence. It's taking so long because they're waiting on forensics. They're waiting on DNA. They're waiting on whatever they're trying to put together. Found a worker for his company who had erased all connections except Barry and Susan, and now look to relocate. Did I miss something? Who found a worker? Was it somebody else we're talking about? Because sometimes I can't read it because YouTube on my screen over here is about a minute and a half faster than this over here, my main stream. So I can't watch both of them. But The female you encountered sounded like Suzanne, too. Okay. You can kind of sign. Do you know Suzanne well enough to know what her voice sounds like all the time? Well, and I really, honestly, I wish that it was her. That was her, but did you get a tag number by chance where she was at? Was she driving a car? Did you get a tag number? Um, you know, um, ending. This thing is just a tragedy. Yeah, I don't like that word tragedy. It's ending, dismissed. Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was kind of. It was kind of also. It was like, you know, it was almost a bother for him. This is just tragedy. It's just a little bother thing, bothering. You know, I don't know what he meant too about if one person gets saved, she would think it's worth it. See, that's another thing. She would think it's worth it. What's worth it? Her being dead? Her being missing? What's worth it? You know? Um, let's see what that is. Anybody remember the cave on private property with a no trespassing sign? Can't find anywhere investigators have been in it. Any signs the ground survey? I don't know that. I haven't heard anything about that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people honestly look like celebrities. I see them out and say, "Man, you look just like that one celebrity." I mean, I could have bet money on it. We're not saying it's not. Just simply saying that I don't think I just would. Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's like saying it's a tragedy. Just they're blaming me. The police are blaming me. It's their fault. They're blaming me. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You know. Yeah, and the bobcat, the statement he says about the bobcat, and I'm wondering if he's referring to the other location. And then you'd think if it's the same night, if that I've got to go back and look at that. But if the old lady that heard a noise at the house that he was doing business on, can anybody remember if that was the same night that she disappeared, or was that a night after that? Because if you think about if that was true and that was him over there working, if that was what he misspoke about, who does that? Does he leave the house while she's at home and go do that? Or did he go the next night and do it? I don't know. It was the night before, you're saying? So it was the same as the night before the bike was discovered. Is that what you're telling me? May the night. So that would have been the night before she was reported missing. Is that correct? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, that just goes back to what we said. It had to happen. Whatever happened to her happened after 10 o'clock or wherever the phone call was. And then that's why they really scoured that area over there, because they were hunting for something where he disposed of what they believe probably that it was disposed of the body. The bike was discovered Saturday afternoon. Okay, well, I thought Mother's Day was on a Sunday. Is that not right? Sunday afternoon, yes. Okay. Yeah, the bike to me is just a ruse. All the bike is just a a way to divert attention away from the house. You think about this now. We talked about this before. Yeah, he claimed he was there setting up a job site. They asked her if he could go on Mother's Day. You think about this now. If it happened at night, sometime 10, 11 o'clock, he had 6, 7 hours to do anything he wanted to do. The girls are not home. You know. Who doesn't take poly if you're innocent? Yeah, here's the thing. Let me discuss something about a polygraph. Now, like I said, I had 33 years in law enforcement. I had taken 6 polygraphs. 4 were for jobs, getting clearances to work federal type task force or getting hired with a job. And I took 2 as demonstrations where I lied on purpose. And they're very good. Now, before I forget it, because my memory's not as good and I cannot remember, somebody tell me the name of that girl that they're interviewing so I can try to run her down, try to find out what if maybe she'd be willing to talk to me. Can somebody tell me who that girl is? They're saying maybe one of his workers. I also heard it might have been somebody been on big game hunts. Trying to find where that was. Morgan. And let's see, what'd you say? Gentle? Okay. I'll try to contact her. Maybe she'd be willing to come on. Be great. A polygraph is only as good as the guy reading it. That's it. I'll say that. But you got CBI and FBI. They are the actual best at what they do. So, but one thing a polygraph can do, and that investigator on there said something. Yeah, you're right. If you're guilty, don't take it. If you're guilty, don't take it. But if you're not guilty, it can do 2 things for you. It can allow and they're going to realize you're nervous. They're going to take all that into account. It can allow the investigators to put you aside and say, this guy passed the polygraph. This guy, even though he looks good for it, he passed the polygraph. We're going to set him over here to the side, and we're going to concentrate on everything else. But if you say, no, I'm not taking a polygraph, even though you're right and it is admissible in court, but they use them every single day to hire people in jobs, to every police job that you will take out there, they polygraph you for it. Every one of them. And what they do, they go over your investigation. I've said this before. We've got a lot of new people here. I'll just say it again. They go over, well, you may think it's junk science, but I'm going to tell you how they do it. I don't know if you've ever taken one before. I've taken a lot of them. They'll let you read they'll talk to you, interview you about 2 hours, find out what you're all about, that you relax. Then they hand you the questions that they are going to read to you, going to ask you. Then they'll go out of the room. Now, polygraph measures these things. It measures your sweat glands in your fingers. It measures your heart rate. It measures your blood pressure. Now, they don't just take one thing and say, okay, well, I failed this. What they ask him to do is take this. Let's take a polygraph. If he flunks it, let's take a voice stress analysis. Now, that is almost impossible to beat because your voice will get a little stressed. But the way they do it with a polygraph, they'll ask you questions they know is the truth. Is your name John? Your name's John. Or is your name Barry? Yes. They'll watch the machine. Is your last name Morphew? Yes. They watch the machine. Is the color of your shirt, say it's a green shirt. Is the color of your shirt green? Yes. They watch the machine. A few minutes later, they ask him a bunch of questions. They'll say, Is the color of your shoe red? No. Or say, well, you answer the question yes no matter what. They'll give him 10 questions. You answer the question yes no matter what. They'll ask him 5 questions that is absolutely true. And they'll throw in 1 question that is false, another true, and then another false, and then another false. And every one of those false answers, whether he likes it or not, they will show up some type of thing on the machine. And even you can say it's junk science, but there's people, these guys that take, these are polygraphers, they just don't go to a weekend class and get schooled in it. It's a 3.5 months of learning how to operate a polygraph. 3.5 months. So while I don't believe they're 100%, I do believe that they can rule you out and let us concentrate a bunch of money and effort to find out who did a crime. If they were no good and they were junk science, then you wouldn't have them use them for every single police department employee is polygraphed. Every single federal agency is polygraphed. Every single CIA agent is polygraphed. Every single, it goes on. They use them for all kinds of work and employment. If you think you need, find out if you're stealing, if you're a liar, if you're a terrorist, you're going to steal the company's funds, they polygraph you on all of it. Are they 100%? No, they're not. That's why they're not in court. But they are a good indicator, and it'd be a very, very good indicator for somebody to take it and be ruled out. I mean, yeah, it can be beat. That's why it's not court. Well, it's a little bit more than that because it does measure the sweat glands, it measures the heart rate, and it measures the blood pressure. It's not just a Scientology e-meter. The one thing it is, they can be beaten. I'm going to tell you a little secret about a polygraph. If somebody is a sociopath, if he has no guilty conscience, he doesn't think that murder and incest and rape is a crime, that he feels no guilt and emotion towards it. Those guys will beat it every time because they do not feel any emotion. They're not nervous about it. They don't think it's wrong. Pedophiles, and also would be that okay, Laura, did you have a question? My assistant here told me that you asked 2 times something, and I overlooked you because I was kind of in this.
What's it going to take to get an arrest?
What's it going to take to get an arrest? Okay, let me tell you. They're waiting. If they may be waiting on some DNA, maybe they found DNA of Suzanne in a place it shouldn't have been. Maybe in a spot, maybe burnt, or as worst case scenario, maybe wood chipper or something like that. Maybe they found DNA. Maybe they're waiting on DNA to come up from something else. Let me just paint another picture. If they don't have DNA from anything other than the house, then they're probably waiting on some luminol and blood stuff in the house. They're trying to put everything in investigation. I'm going to tell you something. When the federal government charges you with a crime, it's highly likely they got you in a criminal case. They never charge somebody unless they feel they can get a conviction. In the state police will often charge you if the evidence on what they call it, the preponderance of evidence, leads them to believe that this is you're guilty. The preponderance of evidence. And you'll hear that in a criminal trial to the jury. They'll say you have to judge on the preponderance of evidence. They look at everything, not an absolute guilt, but a guilt that will lead you to believe the preponderance of evidence and beyond a reasonable certainty that you're guilty. Now, I don't know what they're waiting on. I don't know what they're doing, but they did search the house twice. I don't know what you're talking about here. I don't know what you're talking about there. Data sociopaths. But they did search the house twice. I think it's going to be if I was to make an educated guess, I wish it would be in days, but I think weeks better than months. I mean, one thing is they're working, the way I understand it, and I heard the sheriff was talking about it, and I heard some other people somewhere was talking about it, that they thought that they may have another blood evidence in the house, some other DNA in the house that was not Suzanne and was not Barry. So that's interesting. If that's true, whose DNA is it? And they may be trying to find that, or they may be trying to find a body. They may be trying to find some other evidence that's going to put Barry at the scene or whatever. It's hard to convict someone without a body. Very hard. You can, unless that, Russell, I still don't know what you're talking about. Dog DNA. Unless that, say the second search warrant, they go in during the first and second or whatever, and they find a massive amount of blood in one room where some pathologist can look at that and say, whoever bled out here died. Nobody leaves this amount of blood and lives. Then that would say, they could pretty much say right there that they do have a crime of murder. And you can't convince somebody, this is a comment he had, you can't convince somebody on pure speculation. You can't. That's why they did 2 search warrants in the house. They gathered some evidence from the first search warrant that led them to the second search warrant. And like I said, a second bite of the apple. To get a second search warrant, and I've said this before, it is almost impossible. I'm telling you, I've been there. I've left expensive equipment inside a search warrant and tried to get back in the house to retrieve it. And the judge absolutely said no. So, and I knew it was there. There wasn't no second guessing if the stuff was there. It was there. I just lost it. Well, I think people can see people that, like I said before, that may be who they think is a person. I mean, people look alike. They say in the world, you have a complete identical twin in the world. I don't know. I think that sighting has been reported already to the tip line. For your information, I'm understanding that it has been. I personally have not reported anything to this tip line, although I did on the Leah Cavett case. I called on some information that we had. And I would encourage each and every one of you, if you think you have something that they can use, information, and I'm not talking about theories or guesstimations or something you saw on the internet that somebody else said, that's hearsay. But if you know something, you have personal knowledge of it, or you saw something, give them to them. They could use the help, I'm sure. This law enforcement said they had 600 tips. Heard that yesterday. I think they're still asking for tips, Laurie. I really do. And here's why. Don't you think this? Just say that we had a tip come in that there was past physical abuse in the relationship, that you were a friend of hers and you actually saw her have bruising of the eyes, bruising on her skin, some type of physical abuse, and you believe that this was an ongoing situation, then boom, that'd be something that the police would need to know about. If it's true and he does have a girlfriend, if it's true and you know this because you're a friend of that girl's and she has told you, or you've seen them together, not because you heard on another channel that somebody does this or somebody did that, or they're questioning some girl. I want to see somebody that actually knows they are. If you know they do, then sure, call it in. That's the information they need to do. But here's another thing. Has any of y'all, and please hear me out, has any of y'all heard or read or anywhere that she supposedly had a journal? I read that somewhere. I can't figure it out where it's at. I've looked everywhere trying to find it, and I cannot find it. Has anybody heard that she had a journal and it now is missing? Does anybody know? I heard that. I didn't, he could have been close to 24 hours. Let's say she was talking to her friend at 9 p.m. on 9 p.m. Sunday night. He didn't get home from Denver to 9 p.m. And here's another thing about the Denver thing. We're not sure if he was sighted in Denver at all. Had the police found if it was me, and here's what I was thinking. I'm just thinking about, wishy-washy in my mind. If something happened and I was him and it happened that night and I got rid of the body before daylight, say, because when you're moving stuff around at daylight, you better be doing it somewhere you're not seen. But say he got rid of the body before daylight. And this is all just big speculation. That's all we're doing here. And then you go to Denver, drive the truck up to Denver so you would be seen in Denver. Wouldn't you stop at some of these food marts and get a honey bun or Coca-Cola or something so that you'd be seen all the way up your route, get gas at one so you'll be seen to establish some type of alibi? I don't know if any of that was done. The family told Profiling Evil that the channel, the Profiling Evil, that the family said the mileage, the GPS data on his truck did not match what he told them. So if that's the case, maybe they will find out where he was, because I think however they found out, other than the noise the neighbor called in, they may have had GPS from a truck too, or something that saw him over there, I don't know about the sighting. All I can say about the sighting is let's hope and pray that's her, and she did have some type of mental lapse and went up there. But if that would be true, I would go back to say that if unless he's just this type of person, why isn't he on the news every night saying, hey, help me find my wife. This is what she looks like. We love her very much. These are my daughters. We miss her. Why aren't you out there on there's a street corner every day? Why aren't you passing out flyers every day? There's just not enough reason for that. Yeah, Denise, I tried to find something on the journal too. I didn't find it, but I did. Russell, could you please watch the language, please? We got people that don't want to hear it. I don't, try to keep the language straight, if you would. I do appreciate it. Yeah, the police won't reveal anything, even to Barry right now. If he's arrested, he will find out all of that kind of stuff, because he'll do it in with his attorney under motion to discovery. They'll find out everything. That's the way it works. You tell what you got, they tell what they got, and then they go at it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Russell, I get it. I do. It gets me heated too. But we just got, I just don't know who's in here, and I just, if you would, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm not discounting anything. Even what Annie Lane said, I'm not discounting a bit. I don't know. That could have very well been her. But all of Barry's actions and his motives and what he does is not what an innocent man wants would do. At least I think I think if it was my family member, at least I'd be out on the street corner every single day passing out flyers, going to every business. I'd be talking to the news every other day. If I'm not guilty, I don't care what they try to blame it on me. They could say that you're guilty. The police could be at my door every night telling me I'm guilty. I'm still going to be out there in the street corner, still going to be talking to the news. I'm still going to be trying to find out what happened to her, but he's not. He's backing off of it and saying he is, but I don't see any evidence of that. Okay, the LA law enforcement did ask you, look like someone who has been held as a prisoner in a basement for 2 months. Really? Huh. That's a strange question, really. I don't know why they would ask you that. Suppose that they're pulling the story surveillance to review it. Yeah, that'd be great if they did that. To pull the surveillance, and because that's what they need to do. Just like this past case with the Marilane Carter case, that's strange enough that she was seen in a storefront by somebody, and supposedly the husband reviewed the tape and said, yeah, that was her 20 minutes, 30 minutes out of Birmingham. I just don't know if that really happened or not. I really would love to know in that case too. I doubt she would go back to do it there. But anyway, that case has got me all stirred up. I can't get over that one. I can't keep from thinking about it. This case too, because I think that it will be solved. That's not. I don't go on to say that it will not be solved. I think it will be. It's just a matter of time. There have been cases that have been a lot more information than this that have not been solved. Those they have been. But I think one reason I think it'll be solved is because the media is they're still asking the questions. If everybody just forgot about this and the media just forgot about it, that eventually it might just roll back into the cold case file. But I don't know. I think, yes, if they don't find a body, it's going to be hard to prosecute them for murder. They have done it before. If they can prove that a substantial amount of evidence found in the house, say, would lead them to think that she had been killed in the house. And then you got to think, well, does the fact that was any more DNA found in the house? And, one thing he says, when he says that it could have been somebody close to her, he's trying to lead the police down a rabbit hole. He's trying to lead the police over here. Let's look at this line attack. Let's look at this abduction, and you messed it up, so we can't really say abduction. And it might have been somebody real close to her, so he's trying to lead it down this rabbit hole. I don't see any evidence of that. Of course, I'm not working as a police officer there. Did you ask her name, the girl that you've seen? Why is no one looking for that girl that possibly worked for them, liked to play with the guns, and where was the nephew? Why no photos of them? Well, are there any evidence leading us to the fact that this girl that liked to play with guns? I mean, don't look at everybody that likes to play with guns, because I personally like to play with guns. But it's just because I was born and raised in the South, and that's people do in the South. They play with guns. And this other girl, the nephew, I think, wasn't the nephew the one that set up the GoFundMe page? I think somebody brought that out the other day. You got to look at two things too. You got to look at motive for doing it and opportunity. That's the other two things that police say. You got to look at motive and opportunity. Now, who had the opportunity? I don't know, but one person had the opportunity. The person was there with her that night. The motive is a different and harder thing to prove. If there's a girlfriend, that would be a motive. If there was an argument and ongoing abuse, that would be a motive. If she was threatening to head back to Indiana where she came from, that'd be a motive. We don't know what the motive can be, but obviously there is a motive. There will be a motive found. I'm going to tell you about this, and I'm not just because I'm a retired cop that I say this. Sure, we've got to hold law enforcement accountable as to, in the end, what this happens is, did they do everything right? And I'm sure they're examining everything. We don't know if the bike was laid down there and 15 people touched it. But what I'm saying is, no matter if the bike was never even found, I don't think the bike had anything to do with it, because the chances are of her being abducted or falling down, hitting the head and falling in a creek or getting eaten by a mountain lion is almost the same amount as getting abducted by a UFO, in my opinion. I mean, it's not entirely impossible, but there's no evidence of that. I just don't see why there's an evidence of that. If you could say, oh, well, somebody's camera saw her riding a bike, and yes, somebody passed her on the road and, saw her bike. And so, yeah, I said, okay, well, we established she was on her bike. Well, there's no reason why, other than the fact that the neighbor went over and said her bike's gone. So what? Their bike could have been planted by then. That would have gave the ultimate story. I believe something happened that night in that house. That's where my belief is. Whether it happened like that, I don't know, but that is my suspicion. Now, could I be wrong? 100% I could be wrong. Is this my opinion? Absolutely. I'm not stating it as facts. Just saying. And that's all this channel is. We can't come on here and say this happened and this happened and this happened because we wasn't involved in it. But we can all of us can take an educated look at it. We can examine the facts that we know of. We can compile the evidence ourselves that we know of, and then we can kind of formulate opinions on it. And that's how, believe it or not, a lot of crimes are solved by people just like you and me. The difference that when I was in law enforcement, I was working robbery and homicide and narcotics, it was because I had other people on the outside helping me, people giving me information, people telling me what they've heard, neighbors saying, well, I saw this, I saw that. It didn't make me any smarter than they were. It just gave me, I had the authority to do something about it. And that is what the FBI and the police have the authority to do. Yeah, he could have. Russell, you're exactly right. As bad as his temper was, from what we have seen from witnesses have stated on here, and I put it on my channel, as bad as his temper is, we don't know. That's why I was wanting, I think S.A. Potts there, you seem to know, said at one time that you knew somebody in the family. If you could ask them, have they ever had domestic abuse in the family? That's what I'd like to know. And you're right, reporters do kind of keep investigators on your toes, but as a prior investigator, a prior police officer, I can tell you, your biggest thing was never talk to the press unless you are prepared to talk to them and you know what you're going to say. Because if they catch you out there at the scene, you could release some information that only the person or the killer knows. So you don't really talk to the press, and usually you have one person talk to him. He's the IPO, the guy that talks to the press. The media person. Although I have talked to the press on occasion after search warrants and stuff, because I got press showed up and chief says go talk to him. I wasn't prepared, but I went out there and told him the basics. I didn't go into everything. You wonder about the camera locations in the area and the crime. It's tough to do crime, spotted cameras, and that's what they said. They the FBI and the CBI came out and said if you have a game camera or you have a house camera in the area and you captured anything between midnight the night before it happened to 2 or 3 days after, turn it in to the police department and let them look at it. Because if you listen back to the Chris Watts case, that video showed him leaving in the middle of the night. It showed him loading stuff into his truck. That was a big turning point, and also showed him his reaction to it. That was the police knew right then something's up. So, yeah, I agree that very tall guy with the dark hair was watching me at the store. Maybe he's with her. Yeah, that could have been. And, a lot of people say, well, human trafficking, it could be human trafficking. She doesn't fit the profile for human trafficking. I've worked a ton of human trafficking cases. The area that I worked was, they had all kinds of different human trafficking type cases where my type cases that I worked were when they'd have an agency and they bring these young kids in from Russia and Bulgaria and other places, and they would put them in houses, 15 of them together in an apartment, charge them $400 a month to live there, and then they take $2 an hour out of everything they got. And then we had some prostitution type things too. But it could be, but yes, they do, but it's not. You think about this, the guy that's going to do human trafficking, he's not going to go out and ride around the back roads of some bike trail to steal a girl. He's waiting at the bus stops for the ones that are kind of don't know what's going on. He's looked at the ones that come over from a different country. They take their passports. I can just tell you, I just don't think that is this case. That is this particular situation. I don't think the evidence will lead there. I really don't. As far as a store sighting, that's a possibility, but that could be just, we want to look at everything. The police need to look at everything. They need to go look at that store footage. They need an FBI agent in that town needs to go by and talk to these people. Maybe show them a lineup of 6 different photographs of people that look similar to her and put her in that lineup. See if they can pick her out of that lineup. Look at the footage, and see if maybe that is the FBI is down there now, though. They're working. They could go up there and see, okay, possibly that might have been her, and then go back from there. But from what I see, what we all see in this case is the 3 things: motive, opportunity, and actually what happened. You've got to have some motive and opportunity to do the crime. And that doesn't matter what crime you do. You've got to have motive and opportunity. See what you said here. Well, she must have a good reason to talk to. to walk away an entire family to save the family. I don't, sure, that's a possibility. I don't think that's the case. This is my opinion. Like I said, the girl in the chemotherapy with her said that her girls were everything to her. Absolutely everything. And I don't care what the situation is, why that I would leave my kids and disappear. I just do not think that it's possible, but I don't think that's what happened. Illuminati. But we don't want to, we want to look at those things as a possibility, but we also don't want to get the police chasing rabbits either. You can absolutely, listen, I can tell you, you can absolutely, in any case, whether it's narcotics or homicide or robbery or rape task force that I was on, you can get chasing a rabbit hole and it'll lead you so far away from what you actually needed to be doing that it gets you kind of muddies the water big time. I'm not saying the police need to look at it. The police need to look at it. Okay, so I think, Russell, you want me to say something about myself? My name is Thomas. I'm not going to get into my last name. It's not really important because my channel is not about me. Eldest daughter knows something. I wish she would find out what the eldest daughter knows. Russell, I'm a retired police officer. I worked over 33 years experience in 3 different departments. One department started out in a smaller department, around 50 guys. Went to another department, about 350 men. I worked in robbery. I worked in homicide. I worked in the robbery task force. I worked a rape task force. I worked second shift patrol. I worked with the Organized Crime Bureau. I was undercover for 3 years. I went to a smaller department, 50 guys. I worked 6 years in patrol. Then I went to law school. I got out, was signed to narcotics again. I went back to the same police department. I worked as their head over their narcotics division, and I worked also a cyber crime task force where we did child predator cases. And while in narcotics, we worked closely. I was assigned to a U.S. Customs as a designated U.S. Customs officer for the Blue Lightning Task Force out of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, we had the State Department and U.S. Customs down with us to investigate these Czechoslovakian, Russian, Bulgarian, Haitian, Jamaican, Korean, Chinese, Russian kids that come over here to work. And what they would do, they take their passports from them. So they're indentured servants to them at that point. They are a form of human trafficking. They can say, you will go to work here. You will work these hours. You will stay in this apartment over here. The apartment is $1,500 a month. We put 15 of you in it. You will get $400 a month. The bedrooms had locks on the outside of the doors. They worked $8 an hour. The company took $2 an hour. They had 450 people on the one company. That means they made $900 an hour. $900 an hour. They took their passports on a couple of them that we dealt with. We call the State Department because that is a form of human trafficking. So that's the type of human trafficking I've worked. I've been associated in other human trafficking where some of these Russian girls were used in high-end prostitution. I'm talking about $1,000 an hour. And these are no slouch girls. These weren't the street corner girls. These are beautiful women. You would never thought they'd be involved in that. But if you're in a foreign country, they have your passports. They say, if you tell the police, we'll go kill your family in Russia, or we'll kill your family over here, or you'll never get back. Then that is why there's a form of human trafficking. Now, am I an expert? I've been retired 8 years from the job. Things have changed in the field. People hate the police now. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. They blame the police for everything. All these chokeholds and all this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, folks, what happened to that guy up there with Floyd. He's going to prison. That guy's going to prison. Officer's going to prison. I'm telling you, he's going to be found guilty. But don't let you think that Floyd was a nice guy. Okay? He wasn't. He was high on fentanyl, methamphetamine. He was doing pot. He was counterfeiting money. He resisted arrest, but he didn't deserve to die. And when he stood on his neck like that, that's the problem. But that was a chokehold. That was a hold they taught you in the police academy to get control of the guy. You put your knee on them, their back of their neck to get control. Once you get control, once you get them cuffed like they did, you let them loose. But he didn't do it. And that's the problem, and that's why it's going to cost him his job and probably his freedom. But there's a lot of good cops out there. There's some bad cops too, okay? There's some bad cops. When I worked the job, as long as I did, I saw some of them. But I never arrested a man that wasn't guilty, in my opinion. And I can prove it, every single arrest. I never saw a man arrested because he was black. Never. Never saw one man arrested. Oh, well, he's black. I'm going to put him in jail. Not one. I had a black partner. I was his training officer for 3 years. He was picked on and criticized and Uncle Tom and all this worse than I ever was. It gets me upset, and I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Police work out there is a very, very dangerous job. They're killing them for no reason at all. It's the only job in America when you leave home and you kiss your wife, other than a soldier, that you don't know if you're going to come home or not. It's the only job. Firefighters, yes, but firefighters, that's a very dangerous job too. But police, in and day out, they're working with people that want to hurt you. They want to kill you. You've got to be safe conscience. Now, the last job I worked, 99.9% of the people I arrested were white. I can say that. Very little black interaction with me. Very little. I love police, okay? I love them. They're my brothers and sisters even now. Do I say every one of them's right? No, absolutely not. There's doctors that are bad doctors. There's bad taxi drivers. There's bad teachers. There's bad policemen, judges, politicians. They're everything. They're everywhere. There's not 100% good. But for the most part, you do the job because you love it and you want to help people, not for the money. Up until my last 5 years, I never made over $40,000 a year. But my last 5 years, I did. I worked all the overtime I could make because my retirement was based on the last 3 years of my work. Did you know North Korea girls in China? North Korean girls in China. Oh, like they do in North Korea, girls in China. Yes. In fact, my daughter is Korean. My daughter is adopted from South Korea. My son's adopted from America. So, Asians are very special people to me. So it ticks me off to see a North Korean leader. And just this week, he rounded up all the dogs and trying to kill all the dogs in North Korea. Okay, well, listen, we've jumped down enough rabbit holes tonight, and it's almost 2 hours. I didn't mean to stay on this long. We ask you to please look at all of the things we discussed. If you could find out as much as you can on this case, don't ever look the other way on anything. If you think you may have something, like I said, if you don't want to call the hotline yourself, if you're kind of iffy, you don't know what to do, please email me. The missing live stream, all one word, the missing live stream at gmail.com. The missing live stream at gmail.com. You tell me, I'll make sure the right people get it. Now, if you want to remain anonymous, I'll tell them that too. If you want to tell who you are, you want to be contacted later on, give your phone number to me, I'll do that. Some people feel weird about contacting the police about stuff. I do not, because I've been there. So if you want to email me, just tell me if you've got somebody you want us to look at. Email me. Tell me why. Now, one other little note on the side here. Today, a girl was jogging in Arkansas, little small town, rural community. It was cotton fields and soybean fields. And she went missing on a jog. She was last seen at like 2:30 in the afternoon by a UPS driver. Sad news, this afternoon they found her body. That's the information that I had. I was going to feature her. My next case was going to be that, but this afternoon they said they found a body. Okay, but let's don't convict anybody and put them in jail for life until after the jury trial, okay? That's what I say. We don't want to start putting people in jail without a jury trial. I don't care what the film and video shows, they are always extenuating circumstances that might need to be heard. That's all I'm saying. Yes, Cindy Sutherland. That's right. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming by. Please subscribe. We actually lost 34 subscribers in the last week. I do not know why or what I did to tick them off, but I'll leave that always open to somebody getting mad. I have 3/4 of the people that watch this video do not subscribe. I wish you would subscribe. We plan on doing a lot more in the future. We stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 till whenever we get through. If I don't stream on that day, it's because we have a family emergency and something's going on. And then I would be online as soon as I can. I often come online during the week if something is going on. When they found Marilane Carter, I came on. I think it was a midweek day, a Thursday, or maybe it's Tuesday, and I talked to a few of you there. But if you would want to email me, let me know who you think I need to look at. It doesn't matter how old the case is. Only thing I don't want to do is investigate people that have been murdered. I don't want to get into the actual case because there's so much stuff that you could do there, and it's just, there's all kinds of things you can do. If there's somebody missing, let us put their name out there. Maybe, just maybe, they'll be found. Okay, guys and girls, thank you for listening. Thank you. I sincerely mean it. I appreciate you supporting the channel. I really do. If you can give me a like button now at the bottom, I'm going to play a little outro at the end so I can get some stuff on this when it records over to YouTube. And like I said, I appreciate it. Y'all be safe, stay well, and God bless you. Good night.